Hello and welcome to Can Do Teaching. This is Stacy Graff and I am the principal at Canterbury Elementary School in Crystal Lake, Illinois. During each of our episodes, we invite expert staff members to join us and help us explore current topics in education. Thanks for joining us for our podcast. This is Stacy Graff, the principal at Canterbury Elementary School. Today our topic is equity, and specifically a training that we've been doing in our district entitled Deep Equity. I have a couple of team members and experts with me today. If you'd like to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Yvette Flores and I am 5th grade dual teacher here.
I'm Nicole Lewis, and I am a learning behavior specialist at Canterbury.
Fantastic. Thank you, ladies, for being here. Yvette and Nicole are a member of our Canterbury team that's going through the training. We have 5 members total, and we're really excited about the learning we've been doing. We're engaged in this process. This is our 2nd year of training that we've been doing. And we wanted to take some time today to tell staff a little bit about what we've been working on, what we've been learning, how we've evolved in our learning, and just really share with you kind of what we see as our vision as we're moving forward here at Canterbury Elementary School. So Yvette and Nicole, when we started this process a year and a half ago, I know I came and invited you, and sometimes people think they can't say no to their principal, but I kind of think that I already know this answer, but did you also have some personal reasons why you wanted to join the Deep Equity team?
Well, when I found out that it was a district training, I decided I wanted to be a part of this training because I felt like being a part of Canterbury for 14 years, I felt like Canterbury needed to be represented, should I say. I always felt like we've been seen as a different school, and I felt like we needed to be seen in a different light.
Okay, agree. Like we want to make sure the perception matches the reality, right? Yeah. What about you, Nicole?
Well, I was super excited because I think of Canterbury as a whole, and I think that when we think about all of our students, not just your students, my students, but our students, we have an opportunity for greater success. And so I wanted to learn what I could do to help at Canterbury to tell our story and to make sure that all of our stories were being represented.
I love those responses. It just tells me that I picked the right people. So as we started our training, there's a quote that has been used over and over again. And I think each time I hear it, it holds deeper and more meaning to me. Nicole, could you share that quote with us?
Sure. And I would say write it down, because every time I hear it, I write it down. It says, diversity is a fact. Equity is a choice. Inclusion is an action. Belonging is the outcome.
I love that. One more time for us.
Diversity is a fact. Equity is a choice. Inclusion is an action. Belonging is the outcome.
And that's great to think through. And as we evolve in our understanding of the terminology, we've really come to develop a belief that when we work through looking at the diversity, the equity, and the inclusion, the belonging is really the outcome, right? That's the piece that we all get to feel a part of and that we hope our kids and our staff and our community get to feel a part of. We're going to go through these one at a time. So the first one is diversity is a fact. Do you want to talk about diversity here at Canterbury and diversity being a fact?
Well, diversity is a fact here at Canterbury because we are diverse. Our population here at Canterbury is basically like a melting pot. that's what we are. So this just goes hand in hand. Diversity here at Canterbury is a fact, no doubt about it.
Absolutely. Nicole, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I think it's just understanding that that diversity isn't an agenda, like you were saying. It's something that exists, and it is something that once people feel a part of, like they feel seen, and their stories and perspectives honored, then we can all move forward in ensuring that equity piece, inclusion piece, and belonging.
Wonderful. And remembering too that diversity comes in a lot of different ways. There's not just one way of looking at a group of people to define them as diverse. There's lots of different ways that we can be diverse. So then we said equity is a choice was the next one. Talk about what that means.
Well, I think at Canterbury, and that's again, I think part of my yes for this training is figuring out how all of our students and staff get what they need to be successful at Canterbury. And so equity sometimes is confused with equality. And I'm going to let Yvette tell a really good example about the difference between equity and equality.
Well, that makes me think of two examples one that we discussed in the training, which was equity doesn't equal equality because not everyone needs the same thing, right? So one example was we all know if you're looking at like a baseball game and you're at a fence and there's different you have different heights, people of different height. Well, we're not all going to give them the same soapbox, same amount of soapbox to step on so they can be able to see above the fence. You may need one soapbox, you may need two, you may need three. If we were to give them all the same amount, not everyone will be able to see the same see the same at the same time, right? The other example that it makes me think of is my partner in 5th grade, Miss Guzman. She was telling me about a lesson that she taught for the SEL, and it was regarding not necessarily that you don't all need the same thing, right? And this lesson was, for example, she told the students, pretend you have an injury, right? You choose the injury. It can be a broken finger, it can be a bump on the head, it could be a scratch on your hand. So then they would go up to her and say, okay, I have this injury. And she would say, okay, here's a Band-Aid. And she would give everyone a Band-Aid for that injury that they would have, regardless of the injury. And so the point of that lesson was, well, you may not need a Band-Aid for your broken finger. You would need a cast, or you would need a splint, right? But you would need a Band-Aid for a cut. The point of it is that not everyone needs the same thing. So in equity, that's what it means. Is what we need is the main thing. Equity is basically based on people's needs.
Absolutely. So it's based on need and not that everybody gets just the same response.
And that was making me think about how we've referred to equity in our training, is that it's really the removal of barriers that stand in someone's way to, and at Canterbury, access their learning.
All right. So I love how you just described the difference between equity and equality. It doesn't always mean equal, and very often does not mean equal. So thank you for those great stories, Yvette. Shout out to Guzman. Woohoo! All right. So next is inclusion. And the quote says, inclusion is an action. Tell me what that means.
I think we described it when we've been having conversations as the vehicle, right? Like that's going to be the thing that moves us forward in our diversity initiative at Canterbury.
So I guess the question is, how do we move it forward?
Yeah.
What actions do we need to take, and how here at Canterbury will we help others to take those actions?
And I think that's the exciting part, because we're to a point now in our training with Deep Equity that we're really thinking about, now that we know more, how are we going to do more? And not in the sense of one more thing, but how do we use this as a lens or a filter to view the things we're already doing?
that just made me think right away is that it gives me a different, I guess, lens when I come into different meetings, depending on who's at the table and what we're representing, and just seeing it differently and understanding that just because like something has always been done a certain way,
Mhm.
we've been adapting or adopting this, that it doesn't have to always be that way. And I think that that the cool part for me is that it gives you the freedom to question what you're doing,
Mhm.
and not make a judgment if it's bad or good, but say, is it working for this goal in our
Yeah.
building?
Absolutely. I love how you said that. And then the last part of the quote talks about belonging being the outcome.
Well, I think that once we set, the having the diverse, knowing that we have the diversity, um, the equity, and the action of the inclusion, I think that all comes together. The belonging comes together with that. So once those are implemented and we are aware, I think the belonging then just comes into play. That's the outcome.
Absolutely. Anything you wanted to add to that?
I just think it's exciting because I think that our students here at Canterbury have a unique opportunity. They have the opportunity, if we do this right, to come out with a broader, a bigger perspective. We have, when you were talking about diversity, it's not just backgrounds, it's not just culture, it's how we learn, it's who we are, how we navigate the learning environment, and there's all these different pieces that when our students and staff feel seen and heard, they feel like they're a part of the family, they're a part of the team. So
Absolutely. I love that. So why, right? So we're going to use a new lens, and we're going to be working with staff on what equity looks like here for us, not just for the staff, but for our kids, for our community, and trying to view things through a new lens. What's the importance of this process for kids?
I think the importance is to change the narrative, change the way, like I said in the beginning, that's kind of why I joined the training, change the way not only our school is represented, but also the way the students feel about themselves, about being a part of Canterbury, being a part of this kind of environment. I think that it gets them set up and prepared for future as being strong human beings, like just good human beings.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We want them to be contributors and leaders in our society, and be able to ask difficult questions of themselves and others, and help move their communities forward in a positive way. And this is part of that. They're getting some exposure to people who have different thoughts or beliefs, and figuring out how to find the strengths in people that are different than them. And that's the beauty of it, because it's when you bring people who have different perspectives together, that's when the magic happens, and you can come up with really beautiful ideas that are great for the community. And starting them at such a young age and being able to expose them to that kind of culture and community, I think, is going to be beneficial, not just for the individual students of Canterbury, but the whole city of Crystal Lake as they grow older and start taking on leadership roles in different positions in our society.
I think that if we, as students of this training, if we're able to make this a practice, a daily practice in our classrooms and our roles in the building, the cool part about our team is that it is very diverse. It is a group that represents not just one group of students in our building, but several. And so if we can put these practices in place and we can model them, that then it will be just a natural part of how we learn and grow at Canterbury.
I love that. Ladies, your knowledge and wisdom is far beyond your years. And we're so grateful that you're here today sharing that with everyone. We look forward to next steps as we continue our planning this year and starting to do more work with staff next year. This should be an exciting journey for Canterbury, and I hope that our staff will be as excited about it as all of us have been. So thank you for sharing your experiences.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks you.